reaction to what Ethiopia was doing then? If he doesn't visit Ethiopia?
If he doesn't visit Ethiopia, it's not about visiting or not. First, if he
the way he you know, the performance that he had, that you consider
first
to
of all, while he was there, while he was present and meeting with the Prime Minister,
yes.
First, a president does not meet a Prime Minister. He meets a president on the same level.
Let's put formalities aside.
No. I'm talking about formalities. This is the dignity of the country. This is diplomacy.
Okay.
This is science.
Okay.
It is science. Right. It's serious. Yeah, people have spent all their lives studying this part exactly. How the representation should be. An ambassador to a country signs his documents from a president and does not sign them from a prime minister.
This is protocol, which we quite agree to.
It's a law.
It's
Vienna
a law.
Convention,
Okay,
1961-63.
Right.
So I'll tell you just a little bit further in details. When a president meets a prime minister first, or starts a visit with meeting the prime minister, this is degrading to the state, the visiting state, degrading from the honoring state.
Do you still remember the visit of Hosni Mubarak, who stayed 6 days without meeting the president?
Dr. Shekhar, let's not make Hosni Mubarak the benchmark here. We always go back to him as the benchmark, but that's why there was a revolution to oust him in the first place, because he wasn't really up to par. That's why there was a revolution.
The last photograph Ethiopia has on the walls is Abdel Nasser.
Right.
And I think he's the last respected president for Egypt to visit Ethiopia from their perspective, not for ours. I mean, we're now not evaluating persons. We're not personalizing anything.
Right.
This person represents the country, and I think it's a mal-representation. I think out of honor, they should apologize, and they should step down and leave it to people, or at least subsidize a part of the powers to people who are able to lead. Definitely, the Salvation Committee is not a committee to lead by all means, and they're not trusted by the street.
Right.
We need technocrats now.
Right.
Now.
Who are these people?
Of course.
Because
Abdel Malik Ouda, for example, there's a professor called Dr. Abdel Malik Ouda.
Yes.
This guy has spent 70 years of his life studying the African affairs. In 1997, he placed a report on the River Nile. While I had someone, very close acquaintance, was an ambassador to Burundi from 94 to 98, and has witnessed the civil war, and has witnessed the Israeli hegemony on the Nile Basin countries, and has warned Amr Moussa, while he was a Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time, and Amr Moussa took the report and threw it in the bin. That's exactly the direction. And he said, we know how Egypt functions, and we know the best interest for the country. Dr. Abdel Malik Ouda has this report now, and it's back to life, and it was presented 2 months ago to the President's office, and almost did the same thing and never took a word of it. So I think now, this is not the time for the MBs to rule. It's the time for Egypt to live.
Right.
So if the MBs are going to lead the train, they got to take it on a proper track. Otherwise, we're being very dodgy here. And the problem is that we are assigning people in the wrong positions who are not able to lead anything at all, and they have no expertise except they have trust. Only they're people of trust. If you take the petroleum sector, for example, I would not mention any names, but I tell you this is happening all over the sector. If you take the Ministry of Electricity, for example, this is all over the sector. And we could call names, but this is not really the.
I'm not calling names, but I'm trying to find out, you know, sort of alternatives or solutions to such chronic problems that are taking place in those ministries.
We need to
what? To rebuild a country.
What does Israel do? What does Israel do? Well, let's take this as a model. It's a role model in controlling Africa. It's a role model. Whether we like it or not, let's admit it.
Right.
Now, Israel is going to cut the water from Egypt. Why? Not because they're smart, because we're weak, and because we didn't work for the past 3 decades.
Okay.
And we should build now. I thought the revolution changed the mentality. So if we're benchmarking against Mubarak, then we're having a wrong benchmark.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about an absolute failure. We're comparing ourselves to an absolute failure. What we're suffering now is the collateral damage Mubarak has caused. And now we're adding to it more corruption. And corruption, just a second, corruption has two identifications. It's either allow wrongdoings to happen or contribute in them, or doing things the wrong way that it shouldn't do. Both are corruption. Both leads you to a corrupt path that we would definitely cripple. Now Egypt is crippling, beyond a doubt. We have electricity shortage.
Yeah, no.
It's crippling, hardly.
Yeah.
We're having 3-4 electricity
hold on, because this is important. If Dr. Shekhar, you're admitting that Egypt is crippling, then obviously there is something wrong with the structure of the country and how things are being run.
That's right, yeah.
So it all comes down to that point, is that there is a mismanagement of the country, which is what Dr. Marwan is saying all along.
One good thing that you mentioned right now is that you took the word of my mouth and said, yes, crippling. Yes, it is crippling.
So we're admitting that.
I admit this.
Is everyone admitting that?
The first word I said to my colleague, Dr. Marwan, was that yes.
Your student. No, your little brother.
Because in the first segment of tonight's program.
When he entered the end, I just told him that, yes, he is not happy with the practice and the performance of the Brotherhood and the President. I quite agree to this.
Right.
And that Egypt is crippling?
Well,
yes,
explain
we
to
are.
me how that works. How do you agree that Egypt is crippling, and you agree that there is a mismanagement of the country by the Freedom and Justice Party, the Muslim Brotherhood, the presidency, perhaps even as well. But when we talk about in the first segment about the problems that have arisen in the country since they've come to power, you said no. Well, you know, the opposition and the media are blurring all the good stuff that's been happening.
Okay. The country is crippling. Yeah,
right.
I will give you the answer to this.
Okay.
The country is crippling. There must be some reasons for a crippled person, right? It can be an accident. It can be some sort of a disease, chronic disease, that caused him to be paralyzed, unable to walk, and became crippled, right? So we have to find out the reasons, the causes for this. And then we will put a plan for giving the remedy for it, and we will wait and see. The reasons I mentioned in the first segment was that the opposition parties is one part of it.
Right.
Yes.
Two, the remnants who are working in the country is a second reason for it. The foreign aids and the foreign intervention of the country in all aspects of it, political, economic, whatever, it's a third cause and so third reason. Besides that, the people who are in power now are without experience, I would say, on all aspects of life. Let's face it, they got into power because of the ballot box, which has been voted for by some illiterate people who are, you know, unaware of the whole thing and how it's done. So this caused the country to be crippled. So the country is crippled now. Some of those reasons can be solved. Other reasons cannot be solved.
So what can be solved? What do you think can be remedied at this point?
The remedy is, and I mentioned this in one of the programs here, in one of the debates, one of when the choice of the cabinet took place the first time, and I mentioned this live on air, and I said that the choice is not made on technocrats or people of experience. It's people of trust.
May I just interfere in this point?
Yes, okay.
First, Dr. Shekhar, the kind of debate I like with Dr. Shekhar every time, that we reach to a subjective conclusion. We're not debating personally at all.
Right.
We're talking
not at all.
Now we have an aim that we both love the country and we want it to grow. How to make it grow, this is what we need to agree to.
Right.
This is it. Thank you very much.
Whether we're Christians, Jews, MBs, whatever. Now the country is falling, and it's going to fall on everyone. It's not a personal idea. And the MBs are not going to survive alone if the country collapses.
Not at all. They cannot build the country.
So exactly.
MBs cannot build the country.
Exactly. So let's just take it from another aspect. Hisham Andil, for example, the Prime Minister, was in charge of the Nile case file for the past 5 years. And the only way for selection was that he was a supporter and trustworthy, because he had all the external characteristics and features for an
He was
MB.
number 5 of the prime ministers.
Absolutely.
He was number 5.
Yes.
The other 4 did not accept it.
Let's see the performance of Hisham Andil throughout this phase. The catastrophes that he has caused.
Dr. Shekhar keeps on pinpointing things. If he was number 5, and yet the presidency insists on him remaining in
the other
power,
4
even
refused
though
to.
everyone else is saying...
The other 4 refused to be in.
Right, but then when there was a cabinet reshuffle, he stayed on as prime minister.
Because of the period, and it's sort of.
But we don't know when we're going to have
months,
parliamentary elections, and we don't know when there's going to be a government.
Let's have again. We will come back to the first segment, and we will come to the constitutional house, law house. Those people actually are putting the obstacles in the road of getting the parliament to be formed and be elected. We need a parliament to be there. We had a parliament before, and it was 53 million who voted for the choice of the parliament, the MPs. But again, back to what my colleague mentioned, MPs cannot build a country. We cannot take MPs to be the model.
So how do we, if I go back to Dr. Marwan, how do we get out of this? I mean,
if I was a president, if you
weren't,
if I were Dr. Morsi, I would see Egypt now in need of two major things: strategic commodities and facilities, water, electricity. Stop the increase in prices of commodities, strategic commodities. The normal groceries are rising 30 and 35%. Today, I've witnessed personally, my daughter went to the doctor and I wanted to buy a medicine, and the pharmacy, a big chain of pharmacies, told me that we're not allowed to import it anymore. And it's only a medicine for children, and we don't produce it in Egypt.
Because of the foreign currency.
Exactly. Well, where are we going? I mean, where are we going?
Right.
Is that's just an indicator. It's not a personal instance. It's just a stake of what's going on.
True.
And I would call, if I was president, I would call for all the doctors in Egypt who care about the country to gather up somewhere in Tahrir Square, for example, in an open square, and talk with the people. He was with the people. Now he's walking with a massive arsenal.
I mean, technocrats, you mean?
No, doctors. I mean, doctors, practitioners.
Physicians?
Yes, physicians.
Okay.
I'll gather the best. You know what Israel does? They have a Weizmann Institute. We don't have a Weizmann Institute. That's what we need. We need the best things to be done by technocrats. Then whoever would take the name for it, that doesn't matter. If I want to build a bridge, then I'll get the best architect in Egypt to build this bridge.
Do you think,
regardless,
we can form such a Weizmann?
Absolutely.
Who can undertake
President,
this?
President personally has to leave the ego of the MB a little bit, step down a little bit, and get down with the people again.
Didn't he call for sort of the national dialogue?
Sir,
a couple of times.
Sir, the national dialogue is with the Salvation Front.
No. He said with all parties, including the Salvation Front.
Egypt, let's just face it. Egypt doesn't have political parties. The political parties are led by persons. So they don't have principles to follow except the principles of the person.
You don't have technocrats in the country then?
No, we have technocrats, but we don't have political parties. That's the point.
Those technocrats are representing the parties.
No, sir. The political party, the main aim of a political party is to represent a color of the rainbow of politics in Egypt.
Yes.
It doesn't have anything to do with technocrat.
And what is not a party?
Of course, a political party.
Political party?
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, I've run out of time. Unfortunately, thank you very much, Dr.
I enjoyed the dialogue with my friend.
It certainly is very enjoyable. Dr. Marwan Al-Ash'al, international expert, thank you very much for coming in tonight. And Dr. Shekhar is Islamic thinker, thank you for staying with us for the 60 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, well, that's a wrap to this edition of the Daily Debate. Do join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Nile TV International. I'm Nancy Sarah Barakat, and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.